it's perfect that we're now recording on Mondays now.
Yeah.
So I got this new mug, and get ready to laugh.
Oh boy. Classic.
Yeah.
That's so good. And
It's
then you gotta-
it's literally me. I mean, come on.
And then you got a kitty in your lap watching
Yeah, I
you
do,
drink
yeah.
out of it. It's
A bit-
perfect.
A big ass fat cat. Yeah.
Nice. Is he the one that like sits like a frumpy man?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. He kind of is a frumpy man. Yeah. Yeah. Luigi.
Luigi.
Even though he's definitely has more of a Mario physique.
Yeah.
Not to cut right to the chase, but I could
Speaking of
lead into the
Mario.
movie with this. Speaking of Mario.
Yeah. I'm okay with that. That's a
Okay,
good that's
all
a good one. That's a good
Okay,
one.
sure. All right. I figured you also knew that too. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Welcome back, ladies and gents, to another episode of There Will Be Duds. This is episode 165, and I am your co-host, EJ. And with me, as always,
I am Nick, and I just thought of something terrible about Mario in this movie. But intro the movie. I need to get it out of my system as soon as possible before I forget it.
Okay. All right. Yeah, and that movie, we watched the movie again, and that movie this week is The Game from 1997, directed by David Fincher. That follows a banker, really rich guy, played by Michael Douglas, whose brother gets him a birthday present to be a part of this like elaborate game set up by this company. And then he signs up for the game, and then he's like starts participating in it, but then it's like he starts questioning, like, is this part of the game still, or is this actually like some bigger conspiracy? Are they actually like a game company thing, or is this just like a weird like
Who can
money
you trust?
yeah sort of thing. And yeah, big conspiracy kind of spiral thing, spirals out of control and whatnot. And yeah, so what was the horrible thing you were gonna say?
Well, to preface it, I do wonder if you thought the exact same thing. The first shot of the movie, I was like, oh, this is where Succession got their opening credit sequence from.
Yeah. I 100%.
That, like, even the positioning of the father and son wearing like the white suit with the hand on the shoulder is like perfectly like the Succession opening credits.
Yeah.
But we referenced Mario a bunch, and that was the segue. His Michael Douglas's father is played by Charles Martinet, who is he?
Yeah, it was, I guess. Yeah.
The voice of Mario from like Super Mario 64 up until like last year, I want to say something along those lines.
Yeah.
But really, one of the central like kind of driving forces of this is his father's suicide at the age of 48, which is the same age that Michael Douglas's character is turning. But the manner at which his father commits suicide is jumping off the roof of their like mansion. And I never thought about it until you like made the Mario connection. But
was
like
trying to... Okay, I'll let you finish.
I need you to like maybe edit something together where when it shows his dad jumping off the roof.
Here we go! Game over.
Yeah, they don't show. They frame out the when he was jumping off the roof. They cut out the flagpole that he was actually trying to jump on top of.
That's what. Yeah, he's trying to land on a Koopa.
Yeah.
I don't think he has a single voice line in the movie too, which is a huge bummer.
No, I don't think so. No.
It's all flashback footage. Because like I watched this a few years ago, and for whatever reason, I could have sworn, like jumping to the end, I could have sworn that like it was also revealed that his dad was alive the whole time.
That'd be insane.
But I think that would have been like too much.
Yeah.
like you suspend a lot of disbelief with this movie. I think that would have been like, okay, this is bullshit.
Yeah, I was gonna say like a lot of this movie is already too much, and that would have been too much.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. No, yeah, with him, you can't get both. He's too like high priced. It's like with Charles Martinet, you get face and no voice, or voice and no face.
I feel like he's been in a few other movies. Like,
Probably.
I thought he was in something else that I've seen, but yeah, very very interesting. Like selected filmography. Like he's in like the Beauty and the Beast direct to video, like animation thing. I don't know.
He's in Luigi Meets a Combine Soldier. There's one of his like if you Google him, at least for me, for his like listed movies, there's the Super Mario Brothers movie, Luigi Meets a Combine Elite, Luigi Meets a Combine Soldier, Anastasia, and then The Game.
Weird. Well, I've seen this before. Yeah. And my memory of it was relatively still there. Like it had been a number of years since I've seen it. Definitely think I enjoyed it more my second viewing than my first one. Now, I think once I kind of knew what was going on a little bit, I was like more keyed in to like find stuff, like all the little hidden CRS references, which I definitely like. I didn't really notice my first go around, I think, because I was just like kind of taken in by like the whirlwind pace and just like what's going to happen next. And it's just like, you can't trust anybody. Like this viewing, I noticed the van outside of her house that said like cable. What did it say? It was like cable something services. So like everything was basically an acronym for CRS. I will say, I think this movie is stupid.
Yeah.
But in a way where like I was entertained by it. Like I think the premise and the way that it does it, it's just like it's very dumb. It's very of its time, I would say. Like this and like, I mean, I'm not trying to say these other movies are stupid, but there's something about like the late 90s movies that were, I don't know. I'm like thinking this, like The Matrix, Existenz, like there's some sort of like, we got to escape corporate culture and we got to live life. Like that idea.
Yeah, it does have that kind of, yeah. I almost wonder if like, it's funny because I like, as I would usually say, I'm not saying that like, I don't think David Fincher did like a hack job here, but I wonder if he wasn't the right choice of director for this, because I feel like it's like it takes itself way too seriously for how dumb it is, like you said, like you know, that like to even where like Sean Penn like has the T-shirt at the end after like they reveal that it was all like, you know, part of the game or whatever. And I was like, this feels so weird for like a David Fincher movie. This is so out of place for me.
He does not have a writing credit, which I don't know if he usually has writing credits for like movies that he does.
I'm not sure.
Like obviously, like Aaron Sorkin wrote
like
The Social Network. Yeah. Or at least he would have like a hand in like maybe the screenplay or writing or like the overall, you know, direction of the movie. I mean, I will say
also early enough in his career where he probably wasn't, you know, David Fincher yet. So like he had to do his Alien 3s to do 7.
Yeah.
And then, yeah.
Because this is sort of like his Jackie Brown. Because it's sandwiched in between
two big ones.
His Seven and Fight Club, and like the game is kind of this. It's the one where I feel like if you poll a lot of like David Fincher fans, this would be like the blind spot. Like you said, it was a blind spot for you.
Yeah.
And
Just like Jackie Brown.
it was for me until like one of the Criterion 50% off sales. I grabbed it, which it's bizarre that this movie and Benjamin Button are the two Fincher movies in the collection. I don't.
Yeah, those are the only two.
Those are the only two.
Weird.
I don't get it. It's like the same with Paul Thomas Anderson was just like Punch Drunk Love. Maybe it's like they could get the rights to this one and like, Universal or whoever owns the rights to like Fight Club and Seven are like never going to give those up.
Yeah, maybe. The 20th Century Fox. Yeah, I don't know. That's surprising. Yeah.
I mean, you kind of called it a little bit on like the David Fincher thing though, because there's an IMDb trivia tidbit here that says despite its success in the box office and a cult following, David Fincher has admitted in interviews that he's not proud of the film. He has explained that he was fighting with executives at Polygram Entertainment, which was the distributor of the film, and that he agreed with his wife, Sean Sean, I don't know, who produced the film, that he never should have made the film, citing that they couldn't get the third act, and it was my fault because I thought if you could just keep your foot on the throttle, it would be liberating and funny. So David Fincher kind of agrees with you, I think.
Hey, look at that.
You picked up on the vibes.
I know my directors. I know my guests. Maybe at least somewhat.
I know best.
Yeah. He should have came to me when I was 4 years old. 3 years old.
You're like, David, don't do it. Don't do it.
Please don't do it.
Make 7 was so good.
Yeah, please make 8 instead.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's why 6 was afraid of 7, because 7, 8, 9.
It's nice that it's been a while since I've seen 7, but I mean, I know it has this, but it's like, it's the what I'm getting at is like it's the Fincher look, the Fincher like color grading is in this, and like I feel like 7 has it, but it's not like 100% there. This feels like the first like this is like interchangeable with the look of like Social Network or Benjamin Button or Panic Room, like any, like from here through the next like 15 years. I mean kind of up till now. I'm trying to think up to Gone Girl at least, and then like Mank was doing its own thing obviously, but it's kind of cool that like he hasn't really like changed the look of his movies, but doesn't really need to. There's just something about it that just looks so clean and so slick and nice.
Oh yeah. Yeah, all of the shots of like Michael Douglas, the more like the sort of in between action shots where it's like him walking around various like corporate buildings or like his mansion, that sort of. I think Fincher works with like cool blues and greens, but then also like yellow, like warm colors. Like I'm thinking of 7, where like a lot of that is like in this very overcast, cloudy, rainy Chicago or wherever they're from, and it's like again very like bluish, greenish, and then juxtapose that with like the finale of 7 where they're in the desert, and it's just like very like washed out yellow, orangish.
You got the classic Mexico look or whatever.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did like a lot of that stuff with this one, because like there's like a specific scene. I think it's when Michael Douglas is going to CRS to like take the aptitude tests or whatever. Like he's kind of walking in through the buildings, and it has that like very clean bluish hue to it. And I'm like, oh yeah, this is a David Fincher movie. Like it's very noticeable, like his particular like color and style.
Yeah. One of my first notes was when he meets with his brother, which was also interesting because I realized watching this, I'm like, I don't know if I've ever seen like like this era Sean Penn. I've seen like young Sean Penn, like 80s, like Fast Times at Ridgemont High, and then I've seen like
Right.
middle-aged and up Sean Penn. But I've never seen like this like 90s era. Probably like he's probably maybe still in his 30s, maybe he's like 40. I don't know. There's that, but that his name when he like met with him was Seymour Butts, and I was like the modern equivalent of that if this was made today would be like you're meeting with a D's nuts. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the only other like this era Sean Penn movie I've seen is I think Mystic River.
I was like thinking that I was like, yeah, that's not too long after this, but I think of him as like way older than he is in this, even though that is only like 5-6 years after this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like I guess Milk is like a few. That was
like 2008, I think.
Something like that. That's like the Sean Penn that I have in mind is like maybe mid to late 40s Sean Penn.
Yeah, exactly. Because there's like that.
Like he's got to be pushing 70 by now.
64. I just went. Yeah, he's 64. So yeah. So he was still in his 30s here. He would have been 36, 37 like when this came out.
Okay.
So yeah.
Man, that's crazy. Like I don't know. I have such a problem like guessing ages of people. Like I would have guessed he was in his 40s in this movie. Like like being able to, because like I don't know, we just watched Carrie and like all those high school students have like full beards and facial hair.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm just like we're high school aged people and like people in their 20s and 30s. Did they just look different back then as opposed to like they are now?
I think to some extent, yeah, because like I actually was looking through some of my parents' old yearbooks kind of recently, and like yeah, man, there's a ton of dudes with like full ass beards and mustaches, whereas like when I was in high school there was like the one kid in in your class that like look like that basically, or like maybe like a couple kids, but it's like there's a good amount of them who did. So I don't know, it's just the younger generations were too I don't know where I'm going
too
with
soy.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, too much soy. I guess I was kind of thinking that he was like, I was like, he seems like he's in his 30s, but if Michael Douglas is turning 48, not that that'd be too crazy, but I was like, oh, so he's got to be in his 40s here, because that'd just be a big gap. But again, that's not that crazy. I mean, like I have a pretty big gap in my own sibling.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
And then conversely, like Michael Douglas, and like he doesn't. I know, like, I've seen him in like, I don't know, maybe I think the most recent thing I've seen him in is like the second Ant-Man movie. But like in my head, he still looks like he does here.
Yeah.
Like he looks like an old man in this movie. And that's still how I like kind of think of him. It's kind of
goddamn, he's 80.
80. Damn.
What the hell? Yeah. I always, when I think of Michael Douglas, I think of like this movie, like Falling Down, like that era of Michael Douglas.
Yeah, I mean that's probably like 90s, and then like the aughts, probably when I'm most like that's the era that I think of him in too.
Oh man, he's gonna start looking like Kirk Douglas here soon.
I know, yeah. he's getting up there. That's weird to think of. That like, I still think of that moment, like bringing up Kirk Douglas of him like at the Oscars. And I was like, oh man, good. He's so old, and like, holy shit. Why is he up? Why are they doing this to him? Why is he on stage? He's so old. But now like his son is getting close to that. That's weird that's a thing. Maybe he was young when he had him, I don't know. But it seems weird that like his kid is already like getting to be like that. That's crazy.
Yeah. Pretty serviceable performance from Michael Douglas in this, I would say. I think that's. I feel like he has like a certain style. I feel like he has a certain like way of delivering lines where like, I don't know. I always think of the Come Town bit, like the gay actor Michael Douglas,
Yeah.
where it's just like he talks like this, and it's like he kind of does that in this too. Like that scene when he's talking to his ex-wife when he's like watching TV, and he's just being very curt and short, and like the way that he like I feel like he like almost overpronounces certain words to like kind of really hammer in a point.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, he does have a particular way of talking. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I would agree that like I don't like he does like a serviceable job, but I don't know if like I think I mostly find him pretty boring in most movies I see him in. Speaking of gay actor Michael Douglas, I might need to check out the Behind the Candelabra show, because I've heard that's really good, and like he's actually like playing like it's a biopic, so he's like playing character. That's where he's Liberace.
Is he Liberace?
Yeah.
I remember hearing about that.
Yeah, I remember. I think he won some awards for it, or at least the show won some awards. And I don't know. It'd be interesting seeing him like play a character like that. But he's one of those where I feel like everything I've seen him in, he's like you said, like he is playing that character with that way of talking and.
Well, his other big
whatnot.
role is like Wall Street, Gordon Gekko.
Oh yeah,
which I haven't seen that, but I would imagine
Another
it's probably a very similar.
Yeah,
he's good at playing cold, detached, like rich asshole type guys.
Yeah. But
like the scene when he goes to the zoo. Yeah, the scene when he goes to the zoo and he's got the gun on the guy and he's just like, I'm feeling very fragile. I'm immediately like, oh, this is like falling down, when he's just like, haven't you ever heard the phrase, the customer is always right? Like, it's like that same method, you know?
Yeah.
And then I was looking at it, I guess near the end, when I think the two paramedics that lift him out of like that giant like balloon that he falls into through the skyscraper. Yeah. Those two guys were Spike Jonze was one of them.
I saw that.
And then Michael Massey was the other. He previously worked with Fincher. He was the sex shop owner in Seven. The guy, and then what else was he? I don't know. He was in like a couple episodes of the X-Files as well, I believe. But he's also like one of those like 90s guys who has a very distinct face.
I gotta look him up. I did see the thing with Spike Jonze. I saw that I don't think I ever recognized this, but they traded cameos because Fincher is in being John Malkovich. Yeah. There's like, I don't know. I just looked at the still and I was like, oh yeah, I think I kind of vaguely remembered it. He's like on TV, and he's like, it's like Dr. blah 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 psychiatrist. So it's probably just like that. Like he's just on screen for like a few seconds, and
that's funny.
Yeah, yeah, that's kind of funny. I gotta say, I found myself pretty early into this, like just kind of deciding that this was all part of the game. And I was like, I feel like if I had seen this at a younger age or something, or seen this closer to like when it came out, maybe it would have done more for me. But I was like, I'm too thriller brained to be like excited by this movie. Like I've seen too many where I'm like, oh, there's like, I wasn't even sure like what parts were like supposed to be really like twisty or I don't know, like the crazy like whoa what parts.
Yeah,
I was just I'm just saying like it's not really the movie's fault in and of itself. Just like I feel like I've seen a lot of this stuff before, and it may be from movies that came after this, you know? So
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying, where it's not even like the movie's fault per se, but it was kind of hindering me getting really engaged with like what was going on. And also it's like a rich asshole, and like it's hard for me to like empathize with rich asshole characters.
Right. There was a great bit when the TV, the guy, like the news anchor kind of breaks and starts talking to him.
Who sounded just like it was named Dennis Prager.
The Prager you got, yeah. I can kind of hear that, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's when he finds the clown that is like positioned exactly like his father was, like when he jumped, which is, yeah, it's a little dark, I guess. Like, come on, CRS. That's
Yeah.
So he's like inspecting this clown that's been positioned, and he's like, it's kind of established in a previous scene that like he just comes home to like this mansion with like nobody else in it. Like his housekeeper is like the only person that he has to keep company, and like she always leaves. He's like, okay, bye. And then he just sits alone in his house and just watches like C-SPAN or like some financial news channel. Like that's all he does. It's like finances and banking and shit. And like that's his entire life. But it's on in the background, and he's like looking through this clown, and then the TV kind of like distorts. He's like, I think he's, yeah. There's like one line where the news anchor is like talking about, and 57% of people are going to lose their jobs, or worried about like employer provided health care, or like some sort of like very real economic problem that like even in 2024, I'm like, oh, that's extremely relevant. Like wealth gaps and like wealth disparities and like workers like not being able to pay for shit.
After the announcement of stronger than expected earnings by several high-tech companies, but dipped again, reacting to reports that Nicholas Van Orton had sneezed. Are you going to spend the rest of the evening prying at that clown's mouth?
I
It's
don't.
frustrating for me if you don't pay attention.
I liked that. Like I feel like that was a little bit of commentary about like rich asshole type characters.
Yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, that part was kind of fun. Yeah, I don't know what else I would have been like looking for. I'm trying to think of like any other like standout moments, but I was just like, I don't know if I was ever like fully convinced that there was something else going on. I was just, like I said, I've been too conditioned where I was like, oh, this is supposed to seem like too crazy to believe that this is part of the game, and I mean it is. Like it's so like unbelievably unbelievable that like some like private company could just like orchestrate all this crazy shit. But yeah, nothing took me out of that like thinking that like, oh, maybe something really is going on. I was like, no.
It's all part of it. Yeah, from my previous viewing, I was trying to be like, okay, I remember there's like some kind of twist, right? Like I forgot that Christine was like also in on it. So then her kind of various, I feel like they play with that a little bit, where like he goes to her house and then it's basically just like an IKEA set. Like the books are all just like cardboard like halves of books, and like right as he confronts her, she's just like, they're listening to us. I'm like, oh, okay, like they're like, maybe she's not a part of it, maybe she's just an innocent bystander, but yeah, no, she's part of the whole thing. Like I feel like the scene where they go to his cabin, which again, rich asshole has like a beautiful getaway cabin, like fully furnished to just be able to go to if he wants to.
Yeah.
But I feel like that was supposed to be a scene where like she drugs him, and then you're like, oh, she was in on it the whole time.
There were a few moments where I kept doing the I always like in my head go back to Dumb and Dumber, which, have you seen that movie, or like are you like Are you familiar with it?
I've seen like a handful of scenes, but I've never seen the full thing.
There's a part at the end where they like it's kind of like a switcheroo. Like there's one of the characters shoots one of the other characters, and then like the cops come in and they storm it, and then that person that got shot gets back up, and they're like, "Oh my god, I thought you were dead." And then he like opens up and he has body armor on, and they're like, "Yeah, no, there was no, it was all good, it was all staged." And then he was like, well, "What if he shot you in the face?" And then he's like, "What if he shot me in the face?" And there's like a couple moments like that in this where I was like I thought when they were jumping into the she was like, "Oh, the garbage will break our fall." I thought it was just like a bunch of garbage like bags like on the ground, but then she jumps into the dumpster. I'm like, what if you missed? Well, that's a small hole to hit. And then it also like when they at the end of this very fun game where apparently the point is to drive someone to murder and then want to commit suicide. Like he jumps off the roof onto like the glass window. I'm like, what if he jumped off any other part of the roof? What if and then what if he jumped off any other part? Or I don't know, like
or just like, he jumps but then just like brains himself on like a bar or like some piece of architecture. So it's like he falls through and like lands in the party, but he's just like mangled and bloodied, and everyone's there with like champagne and they're just like,
Or another thing, what if so the gun they revealed like was a fake one, but it had blanks. If you hold that up to your head,
you can still do some damage.
Yeah, you could still do some damage, potentially killing yourself. Like if he had went that route too. They're just like, oh shit, like, oh fuck. I did like that was one thing I caught that I thought was kind of funny, that after he falls and then it's the secrets are revealed at the end or whatever. He falls through the roof and everybody's like, yeah, it was part of the thing or whatever. You get like a B-roll shot of like an invitation card or like an RSVP thing, and it's like you're invited to the birthday for Nicholas Van Orton, and then it's like it was like on October 20th sometime between 8:17 and 8:38 or something like that. So it was like I kind of like that, where it's like they had this planned almost
to like
they're
the
like
minute.
Yeah, they're like we orchestrated this thing so well, but there's a little bit of variation, so it's somewhere in this little window.
Yeah, 8:17 to 8:32, unless he doesn't decide to kill himself, in which one of our actors will push him off the roof.
Yeah.
Like, but I think because the end sort of reveals like a positive message. Like, it wasn't really to punish him at all. Like, I feel like usually with a movie like this, there would be some sort of like moral lesson that he's supposed to learn. And I guess in a way he does. Like, I feel like he gets a better appreciation for his ex-wife, where he's like, I'm going to call you for real this time.
Was that it?
And it's like he didn't really like lose anything. Not that I guess you have to like lose it all. He experienced losing everything for like a day in Mexico.
Yeah.
And then that one day of him like losing everything, he's like, oh, I see the world through a different lens. Like, I was reading, like the Criterion booklet. It was like an essay in there, and they drew a comparison to Christmas Carol. Sort of with like him, it's not like three ghosts of like future, past, and present or whatever, but I think they were kind of describing that as like his sort of his like odyssey to, I guess, be a better person. But it's like, I don't feel like it's like as impactful.
Yeah.
I don't know. It doesn't feel earned. Like, I feel like he's like He's like, okay, I went through all of this shit and I was basically gaslit into thinking that I killed my own brother. And then he's like rewarded for doing that. Like that was the right move. Like it was a contingency that they planned for.
Right.
And then everybody sings for He's a Jolly Good Fellow and he gets to go back to his mansion.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I agree. Like I don't they kind of said it at the beginning that like, you know, Sean Penn's like, "Oh, it's supposed to be," and if, you know, he's kind of playing along, you know, whatever. He's already in the game. But he's like, "Oh, it's supposed to be this really cool thing, this really great experience." And then and who knows, this guy was maybe acting too. But he goes he's like at a party or whatever, and he's like asks his friends if they've ever heard of it, and the one guy's like, "Oh yeah, I did it. I wish I could do it again. It's life-changing." So you're kind of expecting some big thing where like I honestly don't see like any end to this, where like if that was like, you know, you play out to the end, you fall through the ceiling, and then surprise of just killing like just getting an actual gun and like killing everybody. Like, just how would you not like snap in that moment and just like strangle your brother to death or something? like Jesus Christ, it doesn't seem fun, or it's not even like from a game standpoint, it's not fun. It's more like a, what is that one thing called? Sleep No More. It's like an interactive theater thing where you just kind of like walk around and stuff plays out, because it doesn't feel like much of a game when everything is so orchestrated that it's like you don't even have
there's no agency. You don't have a choice.
Yeah, it's not like an escape room, you know?
I feel like they introduced those ideas at the beginning, but kind of abandoned them. Mm-hmm. Like he gets like the key that has CRS on it, and it's like, oh, it's like you're gonna encounter something that you're gonna need to open. Like, what's it gonna be? Mm-hmm. Or like that little handle that he uses to like get out of the taxi cab that goes flying into the water. Which, did they have a contingency plan for that? Like, what if the taxi just went into the water, he got knocked unconscious, and they're just like,
because he hits the front of the thing when it hits the water. Yeah.
They're like, he's not coming up. Like, they gotta send like a scuba team down there to like fish him out,
I guess.
And also, probably, I mean, it's like the scene where he goes into like the office building. I did kind of like this scene where he saw all of the actors just like in a cafeteria.
Yeah,
eating
that was
lunch.
kind of cool. Yeah, I did like.
He just like, I'm like, oh yeah, there's the homeless guy that's in the alley by the payphone. Like, there's this guy.
Yeah.
But like okay, you know, the CRS goons show up with their guns to arrest him, and they just start opening fire, and like yeah, everyone has like they're loaded up with squibs, and everyone is like, oh, pretending to die. Like, Michael Douglas thinks that all those people got gunned down. But like the scenes where they're like where he's trying to escape the CRS goons, like when he goes to her house and then he rips the camera out of the smoke alarm, and all the guys start showing up, it looks like they're shooting real bullets at them. Like, his car is like getting like like the glass is snapping, and I'm like, what if one of those dudes just like hits him in the head and just like kills him?
Yeah.
Like because like I'm willing to suspend disbelief for some of this, like, because I'm like, yes, this is very stupid, but it's kind of fun. But it's like there has to be some level of realism to it, right? It's like, okay, you can kind of explain away like the way that everything's orchestrated, like hidden cameras or, you know, audio feeds recording him. So like there's like a team of people watching his every move, and they know how to act accordingly. But then you throw in like these variables that are harder to control for, like shooting guns at them. And I'm like, this is not as believable to me anymore, because it's like they could very easily like miss that shot and just hit him in the leg or the arm or the chest or the head and just like kill him.
Right. Yeah.
And it's like that's harder to like explain away. Like we rigged his car to like react to gunfire. Like I don't know how you do that.
Yeah.
And I'm nitpicking. I don't know.
The apartment too, because like there's getting holes blown through the wall. I don't know if the windows break or what, but yeah, it's all acting like real bullets. But
like, yeah, we planned for all of this. Calling back to the intro with the Succession thing, though, it did make me want to see a version of this where like Kendall Roy is Michael Douglas, and like Roman is just like, hey bro, hey Ken, like you need to like have fun with your life. And it's
that would like, actually, yeah, the Sean Penn character is kind of like the Roman, yeah.
And then like the season 1 finale of Succession when they're in that like the wedding and the kid drowns in the car, they like they're like, wait, he's not coming up.
Yeah.
Like that's part of the game that they like didn't control for.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh no, we got to cover this up. Game's over.
Or if they're like, oh man, wait, he already wants to kill himself, so
yeah,
I don't know what we do here. For its time, for 1997, this probably would have felt a bit more like fresh and unique than it does now. Which yeah, like I said, is kind of like one of my bigger gripes that I have. It's just like I feel like I've just kind of not seen this exactly. I actually kind of like that. I guess I appreciate when like movies have twists where the twist is just what they've been saying the whole time, that it isn't a bigger like I actually kind of like that, like as part of, you know, as part of the plot, or like that being the big reveal. It's like, no, yeah, it's what we said. There isn't a conspiracy. They didn't do this. It's just it's the game. It's what we told you it was.
Yeah, because like Sean Penn has that scene where like he freaks out on him and he's just like, you're a part of it too, because they planted like 100 different CRS keys in his glove compartment to like what I guess make Conrad think that he was like working for CRS, like planting keys around places. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he was in on it there too, so I guess he just had to have something there.
Right.
And then, yeah, Michael Douglas doesn't know why they're there, but all it needs is like the excuse for Sean Penn to get like pissed off at him or whatever.
Yeah, I did like the scene where they did up his hotel room to make it look like he just had like a debaucherous night.
Oh,
like,
yeah, that was cool. That looked cool too.
All the Polaroids, and then there's like a mirror with like Coke lines on it, and just like porn playing on the TV.
That one, I was thinking when he goes back to his house and it's playing like the White Rabbit and stuff. There's all like the neon graffiti. That looked cool.
That's kind of a neat scene too.
Yeah.
Although, you know, speaking of gay actor Michael Douglas, it would have been funny if like they set up his room, but instead of like a hot girl in a red bra, it was just like dudes.
Yeah.
It was like gay porn playing on the TV.
That's what drives him. He's like, no. They steal all of his money and whatever, and he's like, whatever, but I'm not gay.
Take the money.
And he's
anything
like, yeah,
but that.
That's where he's wielding the gun like he's gonna like. He storms a thing. He's like, tell them I'm not gay.
Tell them.
They're like, well,
Conrad, you know me.
You want to move to discourse?
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Okay. Would you start us off? Maybe I'll think of the thing I was trying to think of.
Okay. Man, I'm kind of torn between a 6 and a 7. Maybe I'll go with 7 because it's David Fincher. Mm-hmm. I watched this yesterday, and you know, I said it was stupid, and I still hold by that. I think it's a very like ridiculous of its time movie, but having watched it before, watching it a second time, it was a much more enjoyable watch, I think, now that once I knew like the overarching story and kind of how everything goes. I think what really worked for me was those like David Fincher isms, like just the way that he composes shots and the color choices that he makes, and like the cinematography. It's like it's very distinctive and it's very him. And plot wise, story wise, it's a little by the numbers. I mean, we're spoiled with shows and movies that basically do this, dare I say, better. Like this maybe was kind of like a blueprint of sorts for like the thriller, like conspiracy, trust no one style of movie. So yeah, I mean, it is a little by the numbers in that regard, but I had fun with it. I think Michael Douglas plays a good cold asshole that doesn't like anybody. Yeah, I thought it was all right. 7.
Okay. Well, you kind of hit it right on the nose for me when you said it was like his Jackie Brown, because I'm gonna give this a 5, which is what I gave that one too. And I think that's my low bar for like directors that I really like, unless they do something that like really pisses me off. I feel like that's as low as I can go for like movie didn't really grab me, but it's made well, so I can't really go lower than that. Is kind of where I'm at. Like I said, I like the look of his movies, the way he shoots certain scenes. I like those like the quick like zoom ins he does on people, like when they say, like he does it with Christine a couple times when I can't remember like what she says, but she says something like they're listening to us right now, and it like zooms in on her face really quick. Yeah, I would say that like if this was me, if I was the subject, I would get my money back, because I would be disappointed, because I would be extremely pissed off at the very least if this was me. I was thinking, I did remember that what I was going to mention is made me think of in like Jackass Forever, and subsequently, and like he was on Steve-O's podcast or whatever, Aaron McGahee said that like he basically got like PTSD from doing Jackass Forever, because of like how you'd get like in between like the main skits in that movie, it would like cut to like somebody coming out of the trailer and they just get domed with like a volleyball, or somebody would like run up and like just do something to them, like throw something at them, hurt them, and like that was just like a constant like day-to-day thing for them, where they were just like everybody was on edge the entire shoot. At
a certain point, you're walking around covering your nuts like this, just like trying, anticipating it. Yeah,
or like there's even like like some of the more like main skits in Jackass Forever. There's the one where they have them in a room with like a poisonous snake, and then they like turn the lights off, and then they like have all like the mouse traps all over, and then when they like turn the lights up at the end, they're like, he's like, is it over? And he's like deer in a headlights, like, is it over? Is it really over? Is this still part of it? Are we still doing it? And like that's how you would be for like months after being in this game. So
yeah, with that one, wasn't there like a second room that they thought that they were done, and then there was more shit in there?
Yeah, they had like just like pots like hanging from the ceiling, and then I think like marbles on the ground, and then they had a table for them to steady themselves with, but that had like the mouse traps all over it, so it like snapped their hands and stuff.
There's just complete like sensory overload. There's nothing that's safe.
Yeah,
and then I think Pontius was in the middle of the room doing like the from Silence of the Lambs with his dick tucked in his legs, and he was just like,
he was that
movie's great.
Yeah,
that was so much fun.
Yeah,
I finally saw Trap.
Oh, okay, yeah, let's start with that. Yeah. Speaking of twists, although it's not really like a twisty in the way that his stuff normally is, because
Right.
You kind of know the twist really early on.
Yeah. Because at the time of recording, we're still pre-Halloween, so we're still sort of in like spooky thriller horror movie mode.
I still am. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we wanted to talk about this like a month ago, or you brought it up, and I was like, oh, I'll watch it eventually. I watched it eventually. So I watched M. Night Shyamalan's Trap. It was fun. I feel like I've sort of become an M. Night apologist as of late. I've liked his last few movies, and I like this one. Mm-hmm. I still don't think I'll ever really like The Happening. I think that's still a pretty stupid movie. But I think I like it when he like gets away from like the twists. Like the you know like what he's known for, like the big reveal at the end, which I think Chloe like didn't like Knock at the Cabin because there wasn't like a big like Shyamalan like twist that like upends everything that you thought would, like the game.
Yeah.
But I think I like him more doing like, I guess, more conventional stories that kind of have twists and turns, but it's not like contingent on one big reveal that is like the grand finale, which I don't think Trap really has one of those.
No, I mean, again, the only one would be that Josh Hartnett's the killer, but it's just different because it's right at the beginning of the movie. But like,
right.
I think traditionally that would be something that comes like at the tail end. I mean, it'd have to be as structured differently, obviously, but like, I don't know.
Yeah, he would have had to have played completely dumb with all the security guards, but instead it's just like showing him like his thought process of like, okay, this exit, how do I get out of here? How do I get out of this way? Which I thought that stuff was great. I thought the stuff at the concert, I think that stuff was really cool, like showing his thought process and just like, because it kind of puts you in his shoes where you're like, how would I like try to escape this situation if I was in this situation? And it's like, oh, he befriends like one of the merch guys, and then like using his charisma, like, oh, steals his key card so he can go around. And that scene where he like pretends to be an employee somewhere and like he goes back and just walks through all of the cops and like gets like coffee or something like that, and they're like, and like one of the guys is like, oh, where do you guys keep the sugar? And he just like doesn't miss a beat, where you're like, oh shit, he doesn't know where anything is because he doesn't work here. He like opens the cupboard and he's like, here, you can have my secret stash. Like all that stuff I thought was great, where he's just sort of improvising and like going back and forth with everybody and just like nailing it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I definitely agree that the movie is at its strongest through the whole the concert, for sure. It gets a little like, it's like thinking about back, it's been like a couple months since I watched it. I feel like I have like a pretty clear like idea of like the moments and the scenes in the concert, and then like everything after that. I'm like, he's at his house for a little bit, and then he goes to like a different house, and then I just feel like it's kind of like that kind of like loses me a little after. But I appreciate that it like a change up. It would have been interesting if the whole thing was at the concert, but it was like a nice not twist, but I thought the whole movie was at the concert, so that like when they actually get out, I was like, oh, okay, all right, what's going on now? So it's kind of interesting that it does change gears, but yeah, it's definitely the most fun there when he's like you said, like getting around everybody, or
the one like mother of the other girls from his daughter's school that's like, man, if they had gotten like the actress that they got was fine, but I really feel like they should have gotten the one mom from like Donnie Darko. She's been in a million things.
The Sparkle
but she's
Motion.
like, yes.
Yeah.
I doubt your commitment to Sparkle Motion.
Yeah,
Like,
that girl. She's probably
she
like an
would've,
old
like-
lady now, but
Yeah, I think she is. But like that type of character is like her bread and butter, you know.
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Also, the concert was great because the music of the Lady Raven is just so incredible, and
Yeah.
you feel like you're at an actual concert.
Yeah. Yeah. It was that whole, it was all like pretty fun how much it felt like, going to a concert. I don't know how to put it, but
Yeah.
it's not a setting you see a lot in movies, I guess, especially that like heavily. My favorite, I think my favorite bit of the movie, probably like my favorite scene, I think, is where is his basically like his last ditch to get out of the concert venue when he takes Lady Raven into like her dressing room alone, and he tells her, he's like, "Oh, I think you're looking for me." She's like, "What?" And then he just like lays it out, and there's like that it's what like my favorite part, like thinking of like, oh man, Josh Hartnett is fucking great in this role. He's really good in this, and this is like a really tight close up on his face, and he just like lays it all out for her, and then he's like, "Okay, make your decision, this or that, and he's like kind of like tilting his head back and forth. Really good. He's really good in the role. Yeah, that was my favorite part of the whole thing. And
He's playing like the charming sociopath that just charisma, just pure charisma through all of it.
Yeah. But it is a little disappointing because it was like, the concert stuff was like so good, and then like you're getting that, and I was like, whoa, this is great. This scene is awesome. And then it does like I said, like kind of tapers off. It's not like it completely falls apart after that and where they go home. It's just like I said, just definitely not to the same level of like enjoyment.
Yeah. I guess you could say a small twist was that his wife was the one that basically was suspicious enough that she like left the torn concert ticket receipt at his place where he goes to think and basically like plan his kills, which is what like tipped them off to him being at the concert.
Yeah.
It's like, I guess that was like a small twist where it's like, oh shit, because you wouldn't know that his wife was in on it when they bring her back to the house after the concert, and his wife is just kind of like, oh yeah, haha, like that's my husband. He's a wacky guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man, I saw because I think M. Night Shyamalan gets a lot of shit for like characters like dialogue and just like this unnatural way of speaking, and there were a couple lines that I noticed that kind of made me laugh because it's like it's like he explains things that don't need to be explained. There's like the part where Cooper runs into M. Night Shyamalan, which of course he has a cameo in his own movie.
Yeah.
But there's like a line where there's a line where he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm her uncle, her mother's brother." And I was like, yeah, we know. Like, yeah, we know how uncles work.
Yeah. It's either that or her father's brother, but also it doesn't matter. Like,
yeah,
just
but
you're the uncle. Yeah.
That, like, I'm her uncle, comma, her mother's brother. It's just like, it's like part of this like heightened world in which M. Night Shyamalan characters live, where like they kind of talk to each other in like these weird turns of phrase and like over explaining bits of dialogue.
Yeah. Or there's like the where he tries to make fetch happen by like what's crispy? What's that? Like the slang term that kids are using, crispy.
Is that's not real, is it?
No, I mean,
Oh, okay.
yeah, I can't imagine M. Night Shyamalan has his finger more on the pulse than
Right.
me, especially like months after. I feel like if it was like an actual thing, kind of like be picking up on it more. No, I'm pretty sure he just made that up.
Counterpoint, that's actually a genius move, because if he had actually used anything that's current now, that would have aged like milk, because no one would have been saying. Are people still going to be saying skibbity in like a year from now?
Better
like
be.
if he had inserted any like current modern slang into it, it would have aged like milk.
Sure.
Was that his thought process? I don't know. Probably not.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm deep fried. Oh, the deep fried memes. I guess that's something.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it was a fun one. It was a neat little thrill ride.
Yeah. Like it. He's always reliable to make something interesting.
Yeah.
And uniquely him, for better or for worse.
So literally, like minutes before we started recording, I got back from a 16 millimeter screening of Nosferatu from 1922. There was a musician who was playing the piano throughout the entire thing, which was really, really cool, and added a lot to the movie. Because I know when we talked about like the General and Sherlock Jr., we were talking about, the traditional silent film era where it's like someone in the theater with an organ versus like, sort of a post movie's been out, like an orchestral score. It's more like full and like kind of, can maybe add a bit more depth to scenes with like the soundtrack. This was just a guy and a piano, and it was really cool watching him play and just like convey the mood musically. Part of they didn't really say if it was like a pre-written score, like if there's like a Nosferatu score that if you go see it, everybody plays, because the musical cues were way too specific for him to have been like improvising the entire thing.
Sure, yeah.
Right? So I'm like, is there like a standard like libretto that musicians play for this movie, or is this just like an option? But either way, it was really neat to like hear the projector clicking and then like the guys on the piano, and it's just like you almost like forget that there's like a musician in the room, and it just sort of like becomes one thing. The print was pretty good. Like everything looked decent. A few of the scenes seemed like kind of washed out. As for the movie itself, I didn't think it was going to be as funny as it was. Like, have you seen Nosferatu?
I haven't. I'm sure I will before the Robert Eggers one comes out, though.
Oh, okay. So I thought there was gonna be a big reveal of like Nosferatu, like there's gonna be like this very horrifying, like he comes out of this casket, and then it's like very suspenseful and spooky. But basically, the main guy that we're like following, like Renfield works in the city, like he's almost like a little like a satellite correspondent for Nosferatu, and he tells this guy, hey, there's a guy in Transylvania who wants to buy this house. You should go talk to him and like iron out the details. So he goes, and he's like kind of riding in this carriage, like he's like someone's taking him there, and then they're like, hey, this is as far as we go before like the land of the shadows takes over. So after this, you're on your own. So the guy like gets off the carriage and like it starts walking towards Dracula's castle. And then he runs into another guy in the carriage with a couple horses, and it's Nosferatu, but he's got like a coat on and like a top hat, and it looks like he's trying to be like inconspicuous, and like,
but he looks like Nosferatu.
Yeah, it's very clearly him, but he's just like, oh, get in the car. Like, there's a lot of physical comedy with him that, you know, I wasn't sure if like every laugh was intentional, because there was like a few pops of laughter, and it's like, this is supposed to be like a scary movie. Like maybe in the 1920s people were like more horrified because they'd never seen anything like that before. But with this, like, he was like just a silly little guy a lot of the time. Just like he walks around and his hands are like down, and he just kind of like, I don't know. It was very charming. It was very funny. Cool. But it was cool to see, you know, again on like an actual, on a film reel, like projected like the olden times. It was cool. It was nice to see like a classic, you know.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. We've been making our way through some of the old like the Universal monster movies. I've seen Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein before, but other than that I haven't seen any of them. And so we've watched, they're not connected, but we're just like watching them in like release order. So we watched Dracula and then Frankenstein again, and we just watched The Mummy, and it is funny, like watching them and just like thinking that like this is what people thought was scary at the time. But now it's like they're fun things to like kind of watch as like part of movie history, but they're not scary. They're not really that scary. And Dracula's great because like just to watch like Bela Lugosi's performance in that, and like, oh, this is what everybody thinks of when they think of Dracula, but it's like this was the first time it was done, and it's pretty. He's also just kind of a fun little guy too. The way that he like slinks around, and his like face, he's always like smiling, and
there's like a part in Nosferatu where he has like a locket with his wife's picture in it, and Dracula sees it, and he's like, "Oh wow, is that your wife? She has a beautiful throat." Like that was one of like the title cards that, you know, like the dialogue cards.
Yeah.
And like that got a pretty good laugh too.
That's funny.
So I do think there are definitely moments that are meant to be funny. Like there's a part where he's like reading a book on how to deal with Draculas, and like it says, "Oh yeah, you know, like Dracula will try to do this, and this is how you can tell." And he like looks at the book and he laughs and just throws it on the ground. Like he's like, this is stupid. This is silly.
Is he referred to as Dracula at all in that?
No.
Okay.
I think it's either maybe because I know that there was like conflict with like Bram Stoker because like this, I think this was like a legally distinct vampire because Dracula is like a story by Bram Stoker. So I feel like there was some litigation that happened with this movie, and like either they were ordered to like destroy it or something like that, and then a few prints survived, so this is like what we have now. But yeah, I don't know if they actually refer to him as Dracula.
Okay. I don't know. We still got, at least in my little collection, it's a pretty neat collection of like the Universal monsters. It comes with like little like, there's like postcards with like posters of each of them, and it has like a book with it and stuff. So it's like it's a pretty fancy version. I think there's still 5 to go. So I don't know if we'll get through them before Halloween, and then if we'll still feel like watching them afterwards, just because it's like a switch for me where it's not like I don't watch any horror movies outside of October, but the interest like very quickly like
Once
shifts.
Halloween's done, you're just like,
Yeah, what's the
well,
point?
do it again next year. Yeah.
But another one I'm trying to get through is the VHS movies. Because I'd seen the first two before, and I haven't rewatched those. I've seen the first one enough where like I don't necessarily need to, but the second one I definitely want to watch again. And I've watched 4 of those now, and I think there's 7 total.
Jeez, that's so many.
Yeah, they got bought out by Shudder recently, and they've done like one a year since then. So they had the new one like just came out, and I was like, I should give those another shot. So I started with the third one, which fucking sucked. It was awful. It was really bad. But then the next one after that, which was VHS 94, was pretty good. It was probably my favorite overall one.
Including like the original ones and all that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's the weird thing is like I've seen the first one a few times, but I don't like particularly think it's like great. I think I've told you probably like I love Amateur Night. There's a particular short in it that is fantastic. And I think there's a couple of that are like all right, but for the most part it's like not that great. But it's just kind of like it's still kind of like fun to watch just because of the whole gimmick of it, I guess. That's probably why I've watched it so many times. And the second one has one that's fucking awesome too. It's called Safe Haven. That one's awesome. And now VHS 94 also has one that's like, I wouldn't put it on that, like, I would say like Amateur Night and Safe Haven are like S tier, and 94 has one that's probably like A tier. It's like just below, but it's actually directed by, I didn't know this at first, but it's directed by the same guy that did Safe Haven. So it's like, oh, that makes sense. That makes sense why it's so good. But I'm like, I want to like get through all of these, and if I might have with those 3 around 90 minutes. I'm just like, I want to shoot my own frame narrative for a VHS movie and then just put in those 3 shorts, and I'll have a like 10 out of 10 movie. Or like 9 out of 10. I'll have one of the best anthologies ever because those shorts are great. But then like most of them are just not. But that said, I think 94 has the best group. Like there's
like overall consistent good.
Yeah, I don't think there was any one short that I disliked except the frame narrative. The frame narrative was the weakest aspect. And the nice thing is that it's a frame narrative, so it's like it's just they're getting you from, short 1 to short 2 to short 3. But it was pretty annoying still. Like every time that was like the big like standout. Like, oh come on, let's really. Most of the other time, the other movies, the frame narrative is just like it's just forgettable. But this one was actually kind of annoying. But no, the shorts were good. There was one where it actually follows a Michigan militia group.
Awesome.
And they're going to like do something. They're planning on like bombing some like federal building.
Of course.
But then there's like they have a vampire at their compound, and they all get like massacred. So it's pretty good. That's fun.
Sweet.
And yeah, that was probably my second favorite one of the group. Yeah, it was good. That one's pretty solid. And then the one before it viral was the trash one. That, speaking of frame narratives, that one is like even worse. It's like porn acting levels, like skill levels. It's really bad. Doesn't make sense either. But yeah, so maybe I'll get through the rest of them. Maybe there'll be, if there's like it'd be cool. Like, I'll be happy if there's one. Man, if I could get like an amateur night level short in each movie, I'm like happy. But even if I just get one like the one in '94, which was The Subject, was the one that I really liked.
Okay.
I'd be, as long as there's something like that strong in each one, it feels like that like makes it worth it. That alone, like one like really solid short.
Yeah.
Makes the movies worth it. But yeah. So
Sweet. Yeah, I have the first one. I grabbed the first one like at a disc traders or whatever for like $4. So I've yet to watch it.
Like I said, it's worth a watch again for me for amateur night alone. But even outside of that, it's like, even though it's not great, it's again the whole the gimmick of it being like the VHS tape stuff and the anthology stuff. It's fun. It's fun to just kind of throw on and for funsies, not take too seriously.
Yeah.
But now, I guess, moving out of spooky season officially, because we will be. Maybe there will be some carryover since we're still in October, but we will be officially recording out of spooky season for the next one.
Yes.
For our Thanksgiving-ish episode when this is coming out.
Yeah.
Yeah, the week of or something like that. We'll stick with yours. If maybe next time we can do one of the ones I said, but I like your suggestion, so we'll roll with that one. So
have you seen it?
I've seen it before, not in a long time, but I have seen it before. For Thanksgiving, I think he said it was just kind of a fall vibes, autumnal vibes movie. We're gonna do movie from 1989, directed by Rob Reiner. When Harry Met Sally. So yeah, it's been one I watched. I was probably in high school when I watched it, so yeah, been a while.
Okay.
So,
it's one of Chloe's favorites, so I've seen it like a few times in the last couple of years.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, there you go. They're standing in a bunch of trees and it's orange and stuff. I'm like, yeah, autumn. There you go.
I feel like the Thanksgiving Day parade happens at one point in time in that movie.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, it'll be a fun one to revisit. I remember liking it more than I had expected to at the time that I watched it too. So.
Yeah.
So watch that if you don't want to be spoiled for it before the next episode. These episodes come out but on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. EST on YouTube and in video form, as well as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more in audio form. We also have social pages on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And with all that said, I am a goddamn human pinata, TJ, and with me as always.
And as always, I'm Nick. But what does that matter to a bloated millionaire fat cat like you?
And bye.
Bye.